Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. The program is Black America. I'm Carol Jenkins. Our guest today is orchestra conductor Marlon Daniel, director of the music festival Saint-Georges International in Guadeloupe, music director of the Color of Music Festival in Charleston, South Carolina, and music director of Ensemble du Monde here in New York City. Now, you may know that less than 4% of classical musicians in orchestras in this country are Black, and Marlon Daniel is out to change all of that. Thanks you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
I think part of the problem may be that you hold all of the musical directorships in all of the festivals because you're so good.
That's not true, but I do have a couple of major ones that I do, and I'm very fortunate and happy to be a part of them.
Well, it's such a great story. I heard about you from a friend who came back from the Color of Music Festival in Charleston saying you have got to interview Marlon. This whole 5-day thing was just extraordinary. So how do you put that together?
Well, there's a team of people that put that together. I do a lot of the work in the planning initially throughout the year, and then I show up a couple of weeks before to do a prep, and then I conduct the concerts and, moderate and do all the things that you need to do as a music director.
So, plan for October, right? 2017?
You got it.
Okay, 5 days of nothing but classical music, opera, seminars.
Yes.
And Marlon running the whole show. Yeah. We always start by asking our guests to place themselves in Black America, and your story is so fascinating. You're a true child prodigy. 7 years old, tell that story.
Wow. Well, of course, I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, and I not the she South Side, as they would say, where all the most intellectual and affluent Black people are. But I grew up on the west side of Chicago, which everybody equates now with being the murder capital of the world.
Yes, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
So that was your childhood, right?
That was my childhood, and I can't say that I didn't live in the projects, but I lived very close to them. So my family was doing, quote unquote, good.
Right.
But you did have that influence. I mean, there were some things that you just never did. Like I would never pass under the bridge.
Never.
That was just never.
Right.
That was just something that you never did, and I was one of the two. At that time, I would say I was going to say the freaks of the neighborhood, because I went to Lane Technical High School in Chicago, which they only accepted like the top 5% out of the city, and it was me and one other person from my whole neighborhood. So we were kind of reverend, we'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to school every day.
Right. But before that, at 7, your dad discovered, he is a musician, and he discovered that you had a talent, right?
Yes. Well, my dad and mom, they were never together. And so basically, my dad had to come and pick me and my brother up, I should say my half-brother up. And so we would go to my grandmother's place that had the piano to actually be, it was called dad time or family time, where your dad comes and picks you up and spends the weekend with you. So basically, he was still in school at the time for music, and he's an amateur musician now. And basically, he was practicing fiendishly for his piano exams. And one day, I was just very, frustrated, because he would pick us up, and all we do is watch him play. Right. And so one of these days, I just went to the piano and says, and played it and said, I fixed it. Now can we go in and have pizza?
And now he hadn't taught you anything.
No.
You just picked it up by ear.
Watching him, he was really, going it over and over and over again. I was like, I thought something was broken.
Because he couldn't play it, right? I'm sure, I would love to have seen his reaction.
After that, every time he looked at me, he wanted to show me things and wanted me to play all the time.
So that was 7, and now you're one of the fortunate ones. So you have this innate genius, prodigy, talent as a pianist, and you grew up to be a pianist and a conductor out of Chicago in a not-so-great neighborhood. Now, how did that happen?
Oh, well, it was really, kind of a very tough situation, because no one was doing anything like this around me. I was fortunate because I did get a chance to meet Paul Freeman and him to, in even later days, give some advice. And he was the music director and conductor for the Chicago Sinfonietta. And he was really, really like a role model because I could actually see him being an African-American man conducting an orchestra. And so I was at that time just playing piano, but later on as I developed with conducting, then I grew a little bit closer to him. And then I was able to study and work in Prague. And he was, of course, there with the Prague National Symphony Orchestra. So I got a chance to actually meet him again. And of course, who the biggest remember me of all times, like my father introduced me at age 7. I'm Marlon Daniel. Remember me? And this is years later.
Years later, I'm sure he must have been so pleasantly surprised.
He
to know
was
that you
actually, and
made
he
it
did
out.
remember me.
Right,
I guess
right.
there's not too many people like me out there.
Well, I guess not, but we're so happy that we have you.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned Prague. A lot of your experience was in Europe. Did you feel that you had to go to Europe? Is that where everybody goes, or as a black man, you felt that that was where your opportunity was?
I feel that yes, I didn't go there because of that, but it turns out that was the case. You know, I didn't sit and plot and say, oh, I'm going to go to Europe to have opportunities. I went to Europe because that was where I was going to study. I had graduated from Manhattan School of Music here in New York City. And after a while, I had discovered my talent for conducting, and I just wanted to learn more, and I wanted to do more, and I entered a competition there, which led me to being the associate of the Prague Sinfonietta, and that's sort of where it all kind of started out.
Right, right. Now, also key to your development is that you had a couple of sponsors, the mayor of Chicago, Harold Washington.
Yes.
and Mr. Jarrett.
Yes, Vernon Jarrett, yes.
Right.
Well, that was really fortunate. I think that if it wasn't for those two people, and my grandmother, let's put it out there.
Yay for the grandmothers.
My grandmother was wonderful.
Right.
And I wouldn't be where I am because they took an interest, and I won the Axel competition, and Oprah Winfrey gave me my first award, and basically they were like uncles, or you know, I was on the Vernon Jarrett show several times, and Mayor Washington gave me an honorary key to the city.
All right. And how old were you when you got the honorary key to the city?
I was like in high school, and and basically, I was just, you know, I just was doing what I was doing. I didn't think too much of it at the time. But I tell you, when, you know, classical music, you know, as they say, you know, your key out of the ghetto. But it was for me, it really was. And Harold Washington encouraged my playing, and Vernon Jarrett. And I'm really thankful when he passed away. And he was the first black mayor of Chicago. When he passed away, I literally cried because I thought that, you know, it was over, you know, and
right.
So that was that. And so I was very, very, you know, fortunate to have those influences and seeing those positive figures in my life who were of African descent.
Yeah, and what I really love about you is that you have as your mission rediscovering and presenting African American black composers, men and women who went unrecognized until this very time.
Yes, well, that's pretty much all black composers.
All right.
And I really, you know, that's another thing that I really didn't really think of at the time, but I got a lot of specialties, and people always call me for all the new works that are by black composers, and they always do this because I was one of the people who would do it. You know, it wasn't like, you know, it's like, well, nobody else would do it, and I needed the experience at this crucial time, and so I got to meet many composers and discover many composers also because of that, because, you know, other than February, you know, it's when else are you going to find
Black history?
Exactly. When are you going to find work?
Now, talk to us about William Grant Still, because you conducted his African American Symphony in Russia, right? So
yes, that was one of the most exciting and gratifying times of my life, because I was hired for the American season in Russia. And they, first of all, whenever you're hired initially as an African-American conductor, either it's in February or a combination of in February, or it's something to do with black people or America. And in this case, they wanted a program, pretty much Gershwin, Porgy and Bess. That's always the go-to piece for every non-black
Sure.
institution.
Right.
They always go to Gershwin, who, of course, Gershwin was actually Jewish.
Right,
And,
right.
and Porgy and Bess is actually, you know, written by someone who's not black. And
Right,
so
sure.
it has all those undertones to it that we all know. And but so I presented back to them. I said, well, how about a program that compensates all of America, and especially at this time period, and not just Porgy and Bess. So I said, what about, you know, a piece by William Grant Still, and a piece by, you know, Bernstein, and a piece to show a greater scope
Sure.
of America literature. And they loved it, and come to find out that the Afro-American Symphony, a piece that they drag out, it's a wonderful piece, but in America, every February you're going to hear it. Every orchestra must program it.
Right.
And but they had never done it in Russia. And William Grant Still's daughter and all these things, and I'm in very much contact with them. They were so thrilled, and you know, wrote this letter about me being the champion of William Grant Still's, her father's work, and went from there. And I made the American debut in Russia of the William Grant Still Afro-American Symphony.
Right. Well, I'm not sure this is Russia, but we have a clip of you conducting.
From Russia. I think that is Russia.
Oh, right. Okay. Let's take a quick listen to that. Nice. William Grant Still, who wrote pieces like this and was in the 30s and 40s, and now, thanks to you, is getting a new listen.
I hope so. You know, he was, you know, a very, very, you know, prolific composer. And I remember discovering William Grant Still and his relationship with his family a long time ago. And it was very interesting because I did a concert called, you know, Gershwin, the I Got Rhythm theme. At the end of this symphony, he has the I Got Rhythm thing, which he wrote years before Gershwin ever thought of it. I don't know how he heard that theme, but then he wound up doing Girl Crazy with it. And so I did a whole concert called, instead of, you know, I Got Rhythm, I called it Still Got Rhythm.
Very good.
It was a little clever pun, I thought.
Now, you have to tell us about Chevalier de Saint-Georges. I mean, this is this is Paris in the 1700s, or
wow. Now,
a black conductor.
Yes, conductor, composer, equestrian,
Fencer.
He was Superman. And now that is somebody to emulate. He was born in Guadeloupe, in Baïf, in the Basse-Terre, which is the south region of Guadeloupe. And he was extraordinary, and John Adams said he was the most accomplished man in Europe. And we basically know very little about him today. He influenced Mozart. So it's kind of interesting how has been swept under the carpet. That because, of course, Mozart is the supreme genius of classical music, but yet we have a black man who influenced him.
So
I guess what does that make Saint-Georges?
Right.
So, you know,
so he was the child of a wealthy painter, I believe, right?
Actually, a plantation owner.
Ah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Plantation owner,
and his African slave.
Yes,
Wife
and
slave.
Exactly. Well, there's for sure that she was, of course, of African descent, and whether she was a slave or not is a little bit dubious because back then, and he really loved her and he loved his child, and got him the best education that money could buy in Paris.
And he was celebrated and accepted in Paris.
Yes, he was. And Marie Antoinette he was actually, they believe that he was a tutor to Marie Antoinette. She really was a big advocate of his, but him being also of noble birth, you know, it was kind of French Revolutionary things going on, and even though he was fighting for the rights of people who were of color, at that time he was a big civil rights person. He almost got beheaded himself because they were cleaning house for all the, the nobles. And so that was a big thing. And Alex Dumas was actually in his regiment. Dumas actually wrote, of course, the Three Musketeers, and allegedly, let's say that, he based his D'Artagnan character on Saint-Georges, the greatest fencer, and we have never seen a black D'Artagnan in any of the Three Musketeers movies, have we?
We haven't yet.
Not yet.
But we will, thanks to
we
you.
hope so. We hope so.
I don't want to leave the women out because there are some really wonderful women composers and conductors. Florence Price.
Well, Florence Price was definitely somebody of the turn of the century, and she really attracted me because she was based in Chicago. And the first woman to get a symphony done by the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And she was just a very, very influential person who taught and performed in Chicago. And she was composing orchestra works, which is a big thing for a woman. And this has always been something that's on my radar. I've done a lot of works by female composers who were of African descent. Dominique Lejeune, Nkiro Okoye. And so it's been really, really very fruitful in that sense.
So now, one of the keys, to your success certainly was, in addition to being innately gifted, was the sponsorship, the support, the training, going to Europe, all of that. What do you say to young people who see you and know that there now is somebody who does it, and is visible? What can you say to them if they're living in the south side of Chicago and Harlem and anywhere in this country and would love to do the same thing?
I consider myself very, very, very lucky because of the circumstances and the place where I was brought up. I really do. And if it wasn't for the right people at the right time, we wouldn't be sitting here. It would be a totally different story, like some of my cousins, and even, like my brother, who was very also influenced by the neighborhood which we grew up in. I would say that you have to work hard all the time. And even when you're, at a point where I am, I still don't think I've achieved as much as I possibly could. And I am still working. You always have to be better than the last time. You always have to reflect on that and keep working. And it still holds true that, especially people of color, you need to work sometimes harder than other people to get to the same place.
And you mentioned before the show started that you were at an event with Kathleen Battle, for instance, who... Yes. Had this wonderful career at the Metropolitan Opera and then didn't. Talk to us a little bit about that kind of thing.
Well, I think that she has a lot of issues, and I think one of her issues, which is really an asset, is that I think she demands perfection in her mind, what she wants to get done. And I think that probably rubs a lot of people the wrong way. A, because she's a woman of color. B, she's just a woman. And C, she's black. I think that those things, she has other issues, probably the way she delivers things. I don't know. I've never worked with her. But you never know in the future. I'm actually thinking about doing something with her in the Bahamas. And so everybody's like, watch out, but I every time I've met her, she's been absolutely lovely. And her historic return to the Metropolitan Opera House was triumphant. That is the word for it.
I was just so pleased to see that it had happened, and then to find out that you had been with her, and so you say that you're not doing yet what you want to do. You have these three. Talk to us about the Ensemble du Monde here in New York City. What do you do with that?
Well, Ensemble du Monde is my orchestra here in New York City. We're a chamber orchestra. We tour and we do a lot of concerts, about 4 concerts a year in New York City. But it's my orchestra. I would love to be able to reach out to major orchestras, like, for instance, the New York Phil, Chicago Symphony Orchestra, my hometown, and even bigger things, Berlin, you know, La Scala. La Scala is a fantastic place, and they have now been employing a lot of singers of color. But to this day, one of those top 10 orchestras have never been, have never had a music director of African descent. I mean, to this day, and I think that, you know, it's a dream and it's a goal, and you have to focus on those things and visualize it. And I would hope one day that I will be eligible and qualified and all those things for a job like this. And that would be really a history-making moment. I mean, just like President Obama became the first black president, I would love to be, at least in the running, to be the first black music director of one of these major 10 orchestras.
Well,
one of these world orchestras.
yeah. So we're looking at the numbers, though, that less than 4%
Yes.
of musicians who've actually been hired. What do you think that?
Oh, those odds are slim, but you know, as they say, you know, you have to be a gambling man, and I'm betting on myself. As they say, oh, I'm roulette table, I'm betting on black. So, so I'm hoping that, you know, I'll have the opportunity. It's quite unfortunate that less than 4% are in America, of you know, classically trained black musicians are in American orchestras. A lot of orchestras are now trying to revise themselves, because it's really quite unfortunate that when you have a city that predominantly in some cities are of African American descent, and then you look out in the audience, from the audience, and you look to the orchestra, and that's not reflected in the orchestra, and they claim that they can't find these people or they're not qualified. I don't think that that's the case.
I don't
these
think.
days.
Yes, I don't think that's the case.
I don't think
either.
they look very hard.
Right, but what's happening in the public schools now? I mean, a lot of those programs have been cut back.
Well,
It used to be
wow.
that. I remember when I was handed my clarinet when I was in school. That was a long time ago. You know, but these days that's a difficult thing to come by, that kind of free public school training of young musicians.
Wow, this is a whole nother. This could take a whole nother show. I just did a guest lecture. Just lectured at Yale University on the arts and social change, and I think that it's quite unfortunate that we don't have these music programs. The first thing to get cut is the arts and music, especially. And I think that this is a mistake, because music stimulates both the left and right side of your brain, and without this jump start, and this really makes you behind the curve on your education. I mean, people who have music, like, I think it's some great number, like 75% of every doctor has actually had music training. And that's because at that young age, when you were handed a clarinet, you might not become a clarinetist, but you have that training on how to think creatively and how to discipline your time and how to make goals very, very, very young and very, very easily. And music does that. Nothing else does that.
So you think the music, this availability should happen a lot earlier than it actually does?
It should happen earlier. I was just in France, in Guadeloupe, and I was with these kids, and they are singing at kindergarten and learning little basic music things and disciplines, and it's sort of kind of washed away, like, well, we need more math and science and things like that. But before math and science, there's a prelude to that, and I think the prelude to that is music.
Now, you are headed to Cuba.
Ah, yes.
Yes, you will be the first African-American conductor with tell us about that. And we, of course, are hoping to come with you. But
well, I hope so, too. That would be wonderful. Yes, I got invited to conduct the National Symphony Orchestra in Cuba, and also the Lyceum de La Habana, which is also the major chamber orchestra there in Cuba. And I was very pleased, because I believe that I know that I'm the first African-American male to actually conduct the orchestra, especially after the time, you know, with the embargo lifting of Obama's historic visit.
Sure.
And so I'm very, very fortunate. I think I'll be making a little bit more of history, like in Russia. And I'm very fortunate to do that, to show a face not only of music and African Americans, but also to show America as a leader in this. And Cuba is sort of like America. They have lots of people of African descent there, and many of them have not seen, you know, a person who looks like me conducting their national symphony.
Well, it is going to be something. We always ask our guests to finish the statement, the strength, the power of Black America lies in. What do you think that is?
Well, there is a great strength in the people who were brought over and enslaved. And I think that strength goes through their generations. And like my grandmother, she spent all her time, all her life, and she working as a maid. She did not even graduate grammar school, but was one of the most intelligent people I knew. When she worked as a maid, and for a lot of affluent, wealthy people, she had a model. Basically, whatever they read, she read. And so she could do a crossword puzzle faster than anybody you knew. And she was a big influence because she introduced, in a way, the love of classical music to me we watched Live from Lincoln Center with Leonard Bernstein, with the kids. And this is something that fascinated me. And she was one, because she watched it, I watched it. And it is a big influence on my life. And she said, basically, only thing that can hold you back is your lack of imagination and your strength to follow your dreams. And
certainly she's very proud.
Well, when I actually did Lincoln Center, she had passed away like 1 year before. I did, because how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice.
Practice.
And when I actually did Lincoln Center at Carnegie Hall, she had passed away, of cancer a year before. But she would have loved me to see me there, and I'm sure she was looking down on me.
I'm absolutely certain that she is, and she is so proud. And your dad? What does he have to say about all this?
Oh, well, my dad is a kind of interesting person because he really never believed that you could actually, make a living with classical music. That's why he didn't pursue it. He does it amateurly. And so me actually being, he always thought that I would go to conservatory and things like that and get a nice job computer programming, which he even told me this. And now that I'm actually doing it, sometimes I have to still prove it to him, like I'm actually doing it.
You are actually doing it, and I am here as your second in all of that. Marlon Daniel, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
And he has a recording out. It's called Phoenix Forever. It's available on CD, so you can hear his music. Thank you all so much for being with us today. Thank you, Marlon. We'll see you the next time.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.